Good morning, everyone. Welcome to St. Paul's. My name is Charlie. I'm the rector here. When is the last time you ever took notice of a pasture? A pasture. Driving around, walking around, animals inside. What are a few things that you noticed? What'd you notice? Space. A lot of grass. Peaceful. Yeah. You may know that Matthew and I have recently taken ownership of our farmhouse in North Carolina. So when we drive back and forth, we drive by a lot of pastures. And it always is kind of a way of de-escalation as I move further and further south and get further and further in the country, noticing these pastures. And there's one in particular. And one of the things that I notice is something that you mentioned. It's big. It's spacious. And the animals are in there, and some of them are laying down. They might be nuzzling each other. They're hanging out. They're in the sun. They're grazing, taking their time, going at their own space. When I was a kid, I used to think, now why aren't those animals trying to get out? Like the fences needed to be really strong and without any sort of impediment because the animals were just dying to get out. But I've been noticing lately that they aren't. Why? Because they've got everything that they need. They've got everything that they need in there. And what's more important about pastures? They're designed to keep things out. It's not about keeping what's in there in, but it's about keeping other things out. Why am I talking about pastures? It's the fourth Sunday of the season of Easter. And on the fourth Sunday, we always talk about Jesus as the Good Shepherd, right? So Jesus as the Good Shepherd. The context of our story today goes way back. And you may remember me standing in this exact location on the fourth Sunday of Lent and telling you a story that was only half told and that we would get to it during Easter. Well, that's today. So what's the context? You know, context is important because without context, you can make up anything and make it whatever you want it to be, especially if it's some prayer that you pull from the internet that ends up being in a movie. If y'all ever need a prayer, would you ask us? We'll be glad to help. Yeah, we've got you on that. Context matters. So what's the context of this story? We heard about it on the fourth Sunday of Lent. It's about a man who was born blind. You remember me talking about that. There was a man born blind and Jesus heals him. And the Pharisees get all into a hoopla about how did this happen? And so they basically interrogate this man who was born blind. How did this happen? Who was it that healed you? And the man keeps saying, it was Jesus. And so they go to the man's parents, remember? Was he born blind actually? Did this really happen? And the parents say, go ask him. He's of age. Go and ask him. So they go back to the man born blind. And they say, again, who was it that he healed you? And the man born blind says, I've told you, it's Jesus. And so you remember that back and forth. The story ends at chapter 9, verse 41. But Jesus keeps talking. And that's where we are today. Remember, we talked about in the Gospel of John, we had a sign, we have dialogue, and we have discourse. That back there during Lent was the sign and the dialogue, and today we have the teaching. So what is it that Jesus is trying to talk to us about in this particular passage? Well, a lot of times this passage is used to say that Jesus is the only way to be saved. But I don't know that that is exactly what John's Jesus is getting at today. I think it has a lot more to do with this idea of a pasture. Because that man born blind, the reason his parents were scared to speak on his behalf is because if people were found to follow Jesus, they would have been cast out of their community. They would have been cast out of their synagogue. And that's what happens to this man born blind. He is indeed cast out. And then Jesus goes and finds him. Now, again, remember, this man had been blind all of his life. He had learned how to operate within a community. He knew how to be blind. He didn't know how to be sighted. And so he still needed a community around him to help him. But his community was taken away from him. And so I think that's what Jesus is about today. It is about creating a spacious pasture for people like this man born blind. People who have been cast out. People who are looking for a new way to be and live in community. And so that's what Jesus is opening up today for this man born blind and for every single one of us. Come into this pasture, Jesus is saying. Come into this sense of security, Jesus is saying. Come into this place where you are going to have your basic needs met. What Jesus is doing, I think, is putting himself over and against the thieves and the bandits. Yes, Jesus is a doorway, but Jesus is not a thief, and Jesus is not a bandit, because what thieves and bandits do is they go in and they take what is not theirs. And that is what Jesus is pointing to, I think, then and now. Who are the people that are coming in, climbing over the gate to take and to snatch what is not theirs? I know that there are people living in our community who still wonder if it's safe to go outside, to go to school, to go to the grocery store. They worry about who is shepherding them. They worry that the people that they could once trust might not be trustworthy. Today, Jesus is saying, I am the shepherd. I am trustworthy. I am the one who is coming to bring you abundant life and create a community unlike no other. Today, our newcomer brunch is happening after the service. And it's for people who are new or newish to our community. And last weekend on Saturday, I met with our confirmation class. Our bishop's going to be here on June 7th to welcome people into the Episcopal Church. And those confirmands got together and we began to talk. Like, what is it about church? What is it about St. Paul's that feels right for you? And they said things like, oh, I never knew I had permission to think that way. I never knew that it was possible for me to ask those sorts of questions. Flowers just showed up one day. A meal just showed up one day. Friends just came to me in a time of grief or celebration. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty awesome pasture to me. So I'd like to think that in being this church, in being St. Paul's, you and I are creating that pasture-like experience. Now, not everything's perfect. Sheep do bite. They can kick a little bit. It's not all perfect. But ideally, what we are trying to create is a spacious way of being and living and thinking and coming together in community. And that, to me, is at the heart of our message. Not who gets kicked out or as excluded, but who is welcomed in. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall lack nothing. So may this space, this church, may this community continue to be a place not only where everyone has a cup, but a space in which everyone's cup is full and overflowing. Amen.